This video will cover the basics of setting up a multi-site environment on your Maintenance Assistant CMMS. Multi-site is just like the regular CMMS, except that some of the information is siloed. In the single-site example, everyone has access to the same information. In multi-site, however, information is site-specific. You have to be a member of that site to access the information. Technicians in Boston can only access Boston work orders and assets. Managers in Phoenix can only access Phoenix work orders and assets. You have to be explicitly assigned to a site in order to view its data. Some aspects of the CMMS are still global though. They're shared between all the sites. That's the difference between having 3 sites under the same CMMS and just having 3 different CMMSs. More specifically, here are all the different fields in the CMMS, broken down by what's site-specific, or local, and what's a global field. The settings are all global. They're set once, and then they're the same across all the sites. This includes all the CMMS settings, asset categories, and custom fields. Task groups and user groups are also global. If I create a new custom user group or task group, it's accessible for every site. Localized items, also known as site-specific items, are basically assets, and then the things that are tied to those assets. So assets are site-specific. The site they're tied to determines who has access to them. Work orders and scheduled maintenance are essentially tied to an asset, which are then tied to a site. Users are assigned to one or more sites, which then determines which assets and work orders they have access to. Messages and notifications are also site-specific. If I have a work order in Boston and I assign the technicians group to it, only technicians who are also assigned to Boston will receive notifications for that work order. Let's go through the process of implementing sites. I've got a functioning CMMS here already set up, and it's ready to have sites turned on. My asset hierarchy looks normal, and I've prepared by labeling my 3 top-level facilities as Boston headquarters, Phoenix headquarters, and New York headquarters. Once I have the multi-site upgrade installed, I can head over to CMMS settings and select sites. I've already got no sites here, which is a system-level site and can't be deleted. No sites is just a catch-all for all assets or users that haven't been assigned a site yet. I'll click here to add a new site. So Boston is set up as a site. Now when I go to my asset hierarchy, it looks a bit different. Boston is here and has a different icon to indicate that it's now a site. And all the other assets have been put under no site. They still exist in their original layout, they just belong to no site. Now, the reason for this is that now that we're using sites, everything needs to belong to a site. So until the rest of these assets are placed in their appropriate sites, for now, they'll fall under the no site umbrella. It's the same with users, as we'll see soon. I can only set facilities at the very top level of my hierarchy as sites. So for instance, if I wanted to make the chemical warehouse into a site, I would first need to relocate it in the asset hierarchy, so it was on the very top level, and then I could designate it as a site. I'll continue and set Boston, New York, and Phoenix as my 3 sites. The next step is to update my users to make sure they have privileges in the new sites. The system has automatically added all of my existing users to no site. It does this so that my users aren't floating while I assign them to their actual sites. Again, under the site's context, everything needs to belong to a site. I'll open up Daryl. He was a technician before, so now he's still a technician, only under no site. I'll add him as a technician to the Boston site as well. You can add a user to multiple sites if you want, so I'll make Daryl a manager at the Phoenix site. Let's see what this looks like from Daryl's perspective. When I log in as Daryl, there's one very important thing that's different about his interface. The site filter box at the very top that allows him to toggle between the different sites he belongs to. Obviously, if he's only assigned to one site, this box doesn't appear. Depending on what site he's currently selected, those are the assets and work orders he'll have access to. You'll also notice that he has manager permissions in Phoenix, but only technician permissions in Boston. To remove Daryl from a site, I simply uncheck all the user groups for that site and hit save. To make someone an administrator, I have to do it from no site. The administrator group doesn't appear for any other site I select. Now, administrator is a bit of a special case. Administrators don't have a site filter box. Instead, they see all the sites at the same time. When they go to work orders, they see all the sites' work orders. When they go to assets, they see all the assets for all sites. You'll also have to update the guest user to have access to different sites. Right now, the guest user can only submit work requests on assets belonging to no site. I'll open the guest user profile and add them to Phoenix and Boston, making sure I select guests and only guests as the user group. The last thing we'll cover is parts and supplies, which are a bit of a special case in multi-site. The part itself is accessible to everyone, regardless of their site privilege. But the stock locations are only available in the sites to which they belong. So Daryl, who isn't assigned to Phoenix anymore, can see the part, and he can even see the stock location in Phoenix, but he can't edit it. Daryl is only able to edit stock items in the site that he's explicitly assigned to. The same logic applies when consuming parts during a work order. Boston work orders are only able to consume parts that have stock entries in Boston. Other sites' parts don't even show up. The part can't be consumed off-site. The part has to be moved in the CMMS, as it does physically, to the current site before it can be consumed. So to recap, step 1, prepare the hierarchy so locations you want turned into sites are all on the top level. Step 2, designate those locations as sites. Step 3, assign users the appropriate site permissions. Step 4, update the guest user account. Want to ensure your site setup goes smoothly with no interruption to your service? Book an hour of training or setup time with one of our product experts.